Now let's start animal tissue. સૌથી પહેલાં ને before doing any tissue, whether it is plant tissue or animal tissue, you have to learn this chart. આવું જ animal tissue, plant tissue માં હતો, આ same as animal tissue. Now animal tissue, memorize it first, then after you can touch the content inside it. Animal tissue, and the type of animal tissue are epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. First is epithelial tissue. And type of epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. Epithelial tissue are of four types: squamous epithelium, stratified epithelium, cuboidal epithelium and columnar epithelium. But this columnar epithelium further divided into two parts: ciliated columnar epithelium and glandular columnar epithelium. Glandular columnar epithelium यानी ciliated and glandular and columnar epithelium. Squamous, stratified, cuboidal and columnar. Squamous, stratified, cuboidal and columnar. Columnar are of two types: ciliated and glandular. Now connective tissue. Connective tissue is further divided into three parts: connective tissue proper and supportive connective tissue and fluid connective tissue. Connective tissue proper એમાં areolar tissue, adipose tissue and fibrous connective tissue. Connective tissue. Supportive connective tissue માં cartilage and bone, and fluid connective tissue માં blood and lymph. Now muscular tissue and nervous tissue. There is no more type in a muscular and nervous tissue. You have to memorize it, give it time at least 20 minutes to learn it. Then after you can touch the content inside it. Now let's start animal tissue. તો તમને બધા યાદ હશે તો એકદમ ફટાફટ ખબર પડશે. What is epithelium? Epithelium means outer covering. Connective, as the name itself suggests, it connects the two different types of the tissue. Animal tissue. In animal, four basic types of the tissues are found as follow: epithelial tissue, epithelial or epithelium, or epithelial tissue yani covering tissue which cover the outer surface. Connective tissue, which is supporting tissue. Muscular tissue, which is contractile tissue which contract and relax and there is a movement of bones and hence we can walk. And nervous tissue. Major four types of the tissue are of animal tissue. Now the first is epithelium or epithelial tissue. Now epithelial tissue are of four types: squamous, stratified, cuboidal and columnar. આખું આ શું છે? બાયોલોજી પૂરું રટવાનું છે, રાઈટ? Squamous, stratified, cuboidal and columnar. એમાંથી epithelial tissue. What is epithelial? Epithelium each cover the outer surface. Covering tissue. Right? Characteristic, general characteristic of epithelium tissue. Epithelium forms the outer protective covering of all over our body, whether it is outside or inside. Outside my skin and inside, for example, surface of stomach, outer surface of heart, outer surface of kidney, outer surface of my esophagus, my food pipe, my windpipe. Outer surface of each and every organ of our body is made up of epithelial or epithelium tissue. Covering of all over the body and lines the inside all cavities. અંદરની જે પણ cavities છે આપણા બોડીની અંદરની, they are line yani any wall. Lines means it's wall. Is made up of epithelium tissue. Those of mouth, તમે મોઢું ખોલો ને, open your mouth and just you touch inside your cheek from inside, the covering is epithelial. Throat, stomach, intestine, windpipe, lungs include the blood vessels. They are all made up of epithelial tissue. The epithelial cells lie close together with little or no intracellular substance or a matrix. They are very close with each other and there is no space within them, so there is no intra means intercellular. Intra means under and inter એટલે બે સેલની વચ્ચે. There is no gap, no space, so there is no matrix yani liquid present between two cells. They can be flat, as the name suggests, flat, columnar, cuboidal in shape. As the shape suggests, is the type of epithelial tissue. Epithelial cells are attached to the underlying tissue. Suppose આ outer covering છે ને, તો એના cells છે આમ flat હોય, right? Flat હોય આપણી skin. But this epithelial tissue is base, એનો base છે એ attached with the underlying tissue. એની પણ બીજી tissue હોય, right? By the basement membrane, which is made up of network of a white and non-elastic collagen fiber. यानी ઉપરનું ટીશ્યુ અને એની નીચેની ટીશ્યુ છે અટેચ થયા હોય with a collagen fiber. Right? આપણી સ્કિન છે આપણે આમ કરીએ તો ઉપરથી નીકળી નથી જતી because our skin is attached with the underlying tissue and the attachment because of a white and non-elastic collagen fibers. આખું ચેપ્ટર રટવાનું છે ભાઈ. Epithelium may be one cell thick because skin or outer layer are very thin. So one cell thick, that is single layered, it's known as a simple epithelium, or it may be several cell thick, that is may be layered or a compound or a stratified epithelium tissue. Most epithelia or outer covering protect the underlying tissue against the mechanical injuries such as abrasion यानी means erosion मतलब શું કહેવાય wear and tear. Some epithelia protect against the water loss and dehydration, against the infection by the microorganism. You know, is a very flat, is a squamous, is a flat, columnar. First is a squamous, is a columnar. Third is cuboid in shape, and ciliated and glandular and stratified epithelial tissue. Right? Stratified means they have a more than one layer. It is known as a stratified epithelial tissue. જેમ કે બહુ બધા layers ક્યાં હોય? Sole of our feet. એમાં વધારે layers હોય because wear and tear ત્યાં વધારે થાય. તો this present F यानी stratified मतलब more layer. Right? Single layer હોય આ single layer and more layer. More layer is a single layer is a simple epithelial tissue, but in which the more than one layer are present is just known as a stratified epithelial tissue. Now squamous epithelial tissue. Squamous are very flat હોય ને એકદમ squamous. Squamous epithelium, the cells in the epithelium are extremely thin and flat, and they are arranged edge to edge, forming a delicate lining or a covering. It forms the lining of the cavities of the duct and blood vessels, lining of the chambers of the heart, covering of the skin in epidermis, and the lining of the mouth and nose. यानी आपड़ा mouth ने open करो तो जे छे lining अंदर नीचे lining means wall of a chamber of a heart. Cover the skin in the epidermis. Epidermis मतलब outer skin, outer layer. And the lining of the mouth and nose. Second is columnar epithelium. Just you have to memorize where it is found. एक note भी बनावी देवानी. Columnar epithelium is just column like pillar like. The columnar consists of the cells which are much longer than the broad, like in a column. It forms the lining of stomach and intestine, and also found in salivary gland in the mouth, sweat gland and oil gland in the skin. some epithelial tissue अच्छा मैं આનું એક રહી ગયું હતું હે અહીંયા છે columnar epithelial cell modified to form a glands which are known as a glandular epithelium है ना columnar epithelial tissue modified to form glands which are known as a glandular એટલે columnar can be modified into glandular or a ciliated may also cuboidal epithelium tissue yani the cell is exactly cuboid in shape like this that cell is cuboid in shape and end to end they arrange the cell are as long as broad yani length and breadth are same and centrally located nucleus is present and yani bilkul center mein ek nucleus bhi hoy it is found in some part of the kidney tubules duct of salivary glands and thyroid glands you have to memorize the place where the type of epithelium tissue found now ciliated tissue the epithelium usually consists of a cuboidal or a columnar but abhi cuboidal bhi hoy aur cuboidal bhi hoy or columnar bhi hoy like columns is height is more than its breadth but both the type on the upper surface if they have a hair like structure is known as a ciliated cuboidal tissue or ciliated columnar tissue right cuboid or columnar cells has a numerous thin delicate hair like projections is called as a cilia arising from the outer free surface of the cell where it found it lies in the windpipe kidney tubules and oviduct now glandular epithelial tissue is it's glandular its name itself suggests it secretes something glands છે તો કઈ secrete કરશે it's another kind of the columnar epithelium but it has a large cell that secretes the chemical substance these are found in the lining of the stomach because the lining of the stomach secretes the digestive juices and intestine because intestine also secretes some intestinal juice glandular epithelium is folded to form a gland such as the tear glands sweat glands etc okay now stratified means they have more than one layer hai na many layers this is a compound epithelial in which the cells are arranged in many layers one above another it is found in the place where there is a much wear and tear such as epidermis of the skin, lining of the mouth cavity, tongue, esophagus and vagina. Right? Sensory epithelium. In some cases, the epithelial cell become modified to receive the external stimuli. Like in our hand. When you prick the needle, it gets the external stimuli. Such sensory cells have a nerve ending so that they can perceive the various stimuli. Perceive yani get. They get the various stimuli from outside and convey the message to the brain. These are found in the nasal passage, taste bud, retina of the eye and epidermis of the earthworm. यानी जो nasal passage मतलब smell, taste, vision and touch and epidermis of the earthworm any outer skin so these are all the sense organ right which so our body become aware of the any change in the outer environment now the connective tissue are of a 3 type ફરીથી જોઈએ connective tissue are of a 3 type ચલો અહીંયા જોઈએ connective tissue how many types of the connective tissues are there चलो જોઈએ connective tissue are of a 3 kind connective tissue proper supportive connective tissue and fluid connective tissue and further they are all divided into areolar tissue adipose tissue and fibrous connective tissue તો આપણે આજે આ જોઈશું આટલું કનેક્ટિવ ટીશ્યુમાં કનેક્ટિવ ટીશ્યુ પ્રોપર, માં એરિયોલર કનેક્ટિવ ટીશ્યુ, એડિપોઝ કનેક્ટિવ ટીશ્યુ અને ફાઇબ્રસ કનેક્ટિવ ટીશ્યુ. રાઈટ? નાઉ કનેક્ટિવ ટીશ્યુ, its name suggests connect, yani to bind. As the name suggests, this tissue serves to connect or bind the cell of other tissue in the body and give them rigidity and support. Support aave. It is a compound of cells, yani it's not the same kind of the cell it has. It contains compounds of the cells and numerous cells and numerous thick structures called as fibers. એની અંદર fibers બી હોય. The cells are embedded in a non-living intercellular matrix. એટલે કે આ છે એક મેટ્રિક્સ હોય અને એની અંદર સેલ્સ હોય. ઓકે, તો આ સેલ છે ને એ લિવિંગ બી હોય અને નોન લિવિંગ બી હોય. Which are living? The cells which are embedded in non-living intracellular. આ intracellular જે મેટ્રિક્સ છે ને એ ઇન્ટ્રાસેલ્યુલર અને ઇન્ટરસેલ્યુલર એટલે કે બે સેલ વચ્ચેનું જે લિક્વિડ છે ને, મે બી લિક્વિડ હોય અથવા સોલિડ બી હોય, વિચ ઇઝ મેટ્રિક્સ વિચ ઇઝ નોન લિવિંગ. બટ ધ સેલ ઇઝ લિવિંગ. The cell which is living are embedded in a non-living intercellular matrix. એટલે સેલ બી હોય અને ફાઇબર્સ બી હોય. સેલ એન્ડ ફાઇબર, સેલ એન્ડ ફાઇબર, સેલ એન્ડ ફાઇબર. આગળ આવશે સેલ અને ફાઇબર. Based on the nature of matrix, the connective tissue is divided into three general types. Connective tissue proper. Connective tissue proper માં areolar connective tissue, adipose connective tissue and fibrous connective tissue. Now areolar connective tissue on the basis of matrix, where the matrix is relatively less rigid. Connective tissue first is matrix is relatively less rigid. For example, bones કહીએ ને, બોન્સ હોય તો બોનના સેલ્સ છે, બોન્સના સેલ્સ હોય, પણ આ મેટ્રિક્સ છે રિજિડ હોય. સો બોન છે એકદમ હાર્ડ છે બિકોઝ ઇઝ મેટ્રિક્સ ઇઝ હાર્ડ. રાઈટ? પણ બ્લડ તો વ્હાઇટ બ્લડ સેલ્સ, રેડ બ્લડ સેલ્સ અને એનું આ મેટ્રિક્સ વિચ ઇઝ લિક્વિડ. સો બ્લડ ઇઝ નોટ રિજિડ, બ્લડ ઇઝ લિક્વિડ કનેક્ટિવ ટિશ્યુ. રાઈટ? સો ઓન ધ બેસિસ ઓફ ટાઈપ ઓફ મેટ્રિક્સ, the connective tissue is divided into three kinds. Areolar connective tissue. In the matrix, irregular shaped cells and two kinds of the fibers. અહીંયા જો એની અંદર અલગ અલગ ટાઈપના સેલ્સ છે. irregular shapes of the cells. કયું છે ભૈયા? areolar. And two types of the fiber. One is black and other is white fiber is shown in the diagram. Areolar. મેટ્રિક્સ, આ મેટ્રિક્સ છે. બે સેલ વચ્ચેનું જે બ્લેક ડોટ છે દેટ ઇઝ મેટ્રિક્સ. યલો ફાઈબર એન્ડ આ છે વ્હાઇટ ફાઈબર્સ. જે બ્લેક દેખાય છે ને એકચ્યુઅલી એ વ્હાઇટ ફાઈબર છે, કારણ કે વ્હાઇટમાં તો વ્હાઇટ દેખાય નહીં ને એટલે બ્લેક બતાડ્યું છે, વ્હાઇટ ફાઈબર. In the matrix, irregular shaped cells and two kinds of the fiber, that is white fiber and yellow fibers, are present. The cells and fibers are scattered in the matrix, and cells and fiber are scattered irregularly in the matrix, crossing each other in every directions. Right? પણ આ તો બી છે, એડિપોઝ ટિશ્યુની વાત છે. આ કયું કીધું આપણે? કીધું એરિયોલર કનેક્ટિવ ટિશ્યુ. It is most widely distributed connective tissue in the body. Its function is tissue bind the skin with the underlying part. તો આપણું જે સ્કિન છે, આપણો હાથ છે, સપોઝ આપણો હેન્ડ છે ને, સપોઝ આપણો હાથ હોય, ઓકે, તો આ ઉપરની જે સ્કિન છે વિચ ઇઝ બાઇન્ડ વિથ ધ અંડરલાઇંગ ટિશ્યુ, બંને વચ્ચે બાઇન્ડિંગ તો જોઈએ ને, તો બાઇન્ડ વિથ ધ એરિયોલર કનેક્ટિવ ટિશ્યુ. નાઉ એડિપોઝ કનેક્ટિવ ટિશ્યુ, નાના નામ પરથી જ ખબર પડે. એડિપોઝ યાની એક્સ્ટ્રા ફેટ It's deposited in adipose connective tissue. यानी તમે બહુ બધું ખાઓ તો you become fat, you become fatty because of the extra food is stored in adipose connective tissue. In this tissue, the cells and two kinds of the fiber cells bhi hoy, same white and yellow fibers are present. The cells are modified to store fat. Each cell consists of large vacuoles called filled with the fat, which is surrounded by a small amount of the cytoplasm containing a nucleus towards the periphery, like this. Big large vacuoles, देखाय છે big large vacuoles is filled with the fat. Very little amount of the cytoplasm and nucleus, which is actually what is common. Nucleus is centrally located. Nucleus always located in center, but in adipose connective tissue the nucleus is not in a center, it is in a sideway. Fat filled vacuoles છે, આખું fat filled vacuoles છે, આખું adipose cell છે, right? It occurs below the skin, around the internal organs and yellow bone marrow. Functions: it acts as a filling tissue, store fats and keep the body warm. Yani more the fat, more it keeps our body and it keeps our body protected from the cold. Fibrous connective tissue, fibered. It is made up of elongated cells referred to as a fiber. એમાં elongated cells હોય fiber જેવા, which are bundled together by areolar tissue. It is of two types, tendons and ligaments. What is tendons? Tendons are made up of white fiber only. They are tough and non-elastic. Tendons connect muscles to bone. It's very, very, very important. What is tendon and what is ligaments? Tendon connects muscles to the bone. But the ligament consists of yellow fibers. The differentiation, what is tendons and ligaments? Yellow fibers, which are strong and elastic. Ligaments connect so one bone to another bone. Bone to bone is the ligament, and bone to muscle is connected. Bone and muscle connected with tendons is very important and it is frequently asked, right? चलो यहाँ रखिए.